And welcome back. Now to our special series, Planet 2020. As the world has grappled with a global pandemic, another crisis has continued on, climate change. And the extreme events over the past few months are evidence that this emergency is showing no signs of slowing down.
It just doesn't seem real.
It looks like a war zone to me.
2020, a year for the history books. Do you think when people start looking back at the records, that 2020 might be the year where people go, yeah, that was the tipping point?
I think it could. We've had more extreme events. They've been huge in their magnitude, and we've seen how vulnerable society is to these events.
Climate scientist Radley Horton from Columbia University's Earth Institute sees the climate emergency as one of our greatest threats to society.
These weather events are being supercharged by the fact that greenhouse gases are so high in the atmosphere now. Climate change is loading the dice towards more severe events.
The wild weather plaguing the world, from extreme heat in the Arctic, causing dangerous amounts of carbon dioxide to be released into the atmosphere, to relentless Australian wildfires burning millions of acres in January, to just 6 months later, here on our West Coast, where the largest fire in California's history, along with dozens more, have already charred millions of acres, and they're still going.
We are seeing a broadening of the fire seasons. They seem to be beginning earlier in the year and lasting until later in the year and reaching greater and greater peak intensities. When I started in this business in the late 1980s, we had a distinct fire season. We never would have thought about much fire danger in Oregon in January, February, and March because the place is soaking wet. But in the past few years, we start producing year-round fire weather forecasts.
Even the hurricane season spinning at an unprecedented pace, with ferocious storms slamming U.S. shores with greater severity and frequency. We've had 3 hurricanes this year that rapidly intensified. Is that something we might be seeing more of with climate change?
Yes, because we're going to be warming the oceans, including near land. And that's going to make it easier for storms to rapidly intensify. But as those oceans warm, there's a risk that we won't get as much warning before a big hurricane forms, and that it might intensify, as we've seen with recent storms, very quickly.
All of this, the result of global warming and a plea from the planet to help save our climate.
As individuals, having the climate conversation, talking about these vulnerabilities and pointing out that there's a future where we don't only have fewer extreme events, but we also have more green jobs, less expensive energy, economic growth, and less air pollution too.
And guys, the key really is reducing our greenhouse gases. We saw the one silver lining to the pandemic was that we saw greenhouse gases plummet by over 8%. We have to figure out some way to get to that kind of reduction without disrupting the economy.
Right. I thought it was encouraging that those numbers went down. It lets you know that there is hope. We just have to come together and do it. You know what? People have said it before. 2020 did not come to play. We talk about hurricanes and these wildfires. It's very humbling, and you recognize that, we're just dots on this thing,
That's right.
You got to take care of it.
Yeah, and we hope you're going to tune in tonight for our NBC News Now special, Planet 2020, hosted by Savannah Sellers and myself. We're going to examine the intersection of politics, extreme weather, and climate change and how it's shaping our future. That's going to be streaming tonight at 8 Eastern on NBC News Now.
It's important.